Hey guys, welcome to the Bold Studio Podcast. I'm your host, Colin Craig, with my co-host,
Regan.
And we're going to be talking about some things today. What things? We don't even know.
We don't even know.
But it's going to be fun. Is criticism essential for growth and improvement, or does it often hinder and discourage artists?
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
I'd 100% think criticism is needed for growth and improvement. And here's why I say that. If everyone keeps telling you you did a fantastic job when in reality you didn't, you're going to continue to do the same thing over and over again, and it's going to suck. But in the same light, if someone gives you constructive criticism, perfect example, we just did a job together, and I was like, hey, job went well. I need you to fix this for me so we can kind of do a better job. You're like, oh, okay, great. You would have never fixed those things if I would have never told you.
Right.
Right? Now, this is where it gets sticky. Because if you're going to post that thing and ask for constructive criticism or like someone to do that, and it's not anyone who actually genuinely cares for you or wants the best for your interest, they're just giving you their opinion, it's going to put you down a slippery slope, and I think that hinders you from putting more work out because more than likely they're going to give their opinion, which is usually just brutal because they have no idea who you are. And I think that that's what's going to stifle and hinder more creative abilities to continue moving forward.
So where's the line in, because obviously a lot of stuff is subjective.
Right.
For example, let's say there's opposing critiques. Like, I don't know. Let's say that someone's like, hey, your video is oversaturated.
Yeah.
And let's say someone says, oh, I think your video could be a little more saturated visually.
Right.
Which one, like, at what point do you have to say, oh, this person's right or this person's right? Like, how do you decide? And is it up to you to have your subjective, however you want it to be, like, influence what you actually do going forward on your next project or something like that?
Great question. I think, obviously, you have to have, you created this thing in the first place. So there has to be some sort of idea or style that you had behind it when you created it, right? So, for example, if I created to use your example, if I created a desaturated video and it looks more filmic and whatever, and someone's like, I think you need to punch the blues and greens and make it a little bit more saturated. You're like, that's not really what I was going for. But someone else came in and they're like, no, I think this looks great. I think you need to sharpen this, and maybe take your highlights down a little bit because it look a little bit blown out. I'm like, okay, that aligns with the original vision of where I was going, and that's how it's going to make the vision of what I wanted it to look better. So I think you should, and this is where it's like, find your truth. No, but I think you need to, don't say that. That's not what I mean. But I do think you need to have an idea of what you wanted it to look like, because ultimately you're the quote unquote creator of the project. And if you're looking for feedback on how to make it better, if someone's like, take that black and white or filmic look type of here and make it super clinical and sharp and whatever, you're like, well, that's not, that is not the intent of what it was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Obviously that criticism is wrong for what you envisioned for that to look like versus the other person that's like, hey, change your framing or make this look better this way. So does that...
I definitely think there's a difference between constructive criticism and just criticism 100%. And like complaining and, I just don't like it just because.
Right.
Like something that I want to talk about this too, because you and I have different experiences with our backgrounds, obviously, but in criticism specifically, I went to school for digital media, and I had a lot of critiquing sessions in my classes. And one of the things that all of my professors told us when we were going around doing a critique was group critique. That was the word I was looking for.
That seems like a problem, but okay.
Anyway, group critique. We go around the room, and everyone looks at everyone's art pieces or whatever it is. And if you couldn't explain why you didn't like something, or why you did like something even, it's, I don't want to say it wasn't valid, but like, that's one of the things that I learned in college was figuring out a way to articulate why I didn't like something or why I did like something. I think you can be, I mean, even if it's like an ambiguous why, like if it's sort of vague, but I mean, that's just how you're interpreting whatever the art piece is.
Right.
It's still articulating your whatever interpretation of the art piece.
So where did you get to personally as far as constructive criticism or just criticism?
Giving or receiving criticism.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if it is genuinely constructive criticism, I receive that well because I know that I can improve on everything that I do.
Right.
But if it's just people saying like, "Oh, I just don't like it," just because, and you can't explain why, I don't feel like that's it. I will listen to it, I will hear it, but I don't necessarily agree with that type of criticism.
Makes sense.
So a lot of my critiques and things that I've experienced was like college based, but you didn't have that type of criticism. So going through owning a business and doing video production, all of that, and even dancing too. Where did that for you? Like, what was your experience with critiques over things that you've done?
That's great. So I would say for me personally, especially growing up in the dance world, so let's take video and film out of it for a while, because a lot of my business background or criticisms grew up that I grew up in with dance or performance. So this is almost a little bit of a different criticism because now it's performance based versus work based, and that's a little bit. I'll be careful and say I feel like it's a little bit more extreme to give someone critiques on performance versus work, because this is me performing and doing something for you versus me something creating and giving it to you.
Yeah.
So the cocky part of this is a lot of the time people are like, dude, that was fantastic. They didn't know what was good because what I did performance wise and dance wise was just already mind blowing. Like they just didn't see that thing normally happening. But my biggest critic was my mom. And it was hard because she's my mom. So she wanted what was best for me. Like at the end of the heart of the hearts of it is she wanted what was best for me. But I would get off stage and she was like, what were you doing? Like, what was that? And I'd be like, I thought I did a really good job. I thought that was great. And she's like, you just look like you're going spastic, jumping all over the stage. And I was like, first of all, ouch.
Yeah.
But I would go back and watch a video, and I didn't record myself very often. I never saw videos of myself very often. So I never really knew what I looked like. I just knew what I felt like. And I went back and watched this specific video where she had said, like, you were just going spastic all over the stage. And she was 100% right. And so that's where I was like, okay, was it painful because I personally took it, or was it painful because she said it in a negative way?
And was it the things that you were doing, were they intentional, or was it like just little mistakes while you're performing, if that makes sense?
Well,
or both.
I wouldn't call them mistakes, but I also wouldn't call them intentional. It was just more so like,
was this like freestyle dancing?
Yeah, freestyle dancing. Okay. Yeah.
So in your head, when you were getting ready to do, I don't know how much of that you would plan out because obviously I'm not a dancer, but do I look like a dancer? No, I'm not.
I'm not going to make any comments on that.
Maybe
I'll leave it alone.
slow dancing. Maybe.
You look like an interpretive belly dancer.
No.
I mean, I would pay $100 to see that.
No.
I love that for me. It's great.
Where was I going with this?
I don't know.
Oh, so I don't know how you determine what it is you're going to do next while you're freestyling.
Yeah.
But like in your head, when you were about to do something, was it like, did you execute it the way that you saw it in your head? And then when you went back and watched it, it was executed exactly how you wanted to execute it on the video? Or was it like, I thought this was how it was going to look, but it's not exactly how I thought it was going to look, so I need to go back and like tweak that a little bit. So it was like intentional, but also a mistake, if that makes sense.
No, that's a great question, because up until that point, everything was it was literally freestyled. It was, nothing was like pre-thought out. I was like, I could go from this move to this move or whatever. I would hear the song maybe a couple of times before I would go on. And I'd be like, this is just me doing what I do. This is break dancers, interpretive dance. So it was great. And I think up until that point that's just what I did. I just listened to it and be like, I know this goes here, and if I did this move here, this would connect well, and so it'll just work. But after I watched that video back, the realization of like he doesn't look like any of this is planned, and he is just kind of running back and forth all over the stage. And I was like, okay, weird. I was like, okay, dude, chill out. Let's put a studio space. I realized, okay, in order for this to be a legit performance, and if I want people to really start paying me to do this thing well, there has to be preparation on this. And so that's where I started taking songs. Instead of taking like an hour or two, I'd take 3 or 4 days to listen to that song. And I'd still somewhat choreograph it in my head because I knew what I was looking for. I knew what I could do. But I was being more intentional on what the music was doing. And so if I wouldn't have gotten that critique from my mom, I don't think that there would have been that intentional preparation now to do and feel the music the way that it should. So again, to go back, I wouldn't call them mistakes. They were just ignorance, really.
Yeah.
For me to go and try just do whatever felt good versus prepare and create something intentional for it to look right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So let me take that back and now throw it into the video world. And I'm also a firm believer of like every lesson you have in life, both good and bad, are preparations and lessons for you to go on and become better.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So now that I'm here in business world, I don't have many people critiquing me in the business world. I critique myself, and I'm a very hard critic on myself. I'm not a perfectionist, but there is I'm almost to that point where I'm like, God, this isn't right until it feels right. And I appreciate and I give that credit to my mom because I would say she was a perfectionist in her own way and gave me that as far as in my business and in, my video production and even in my editing. There are things today that people are like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I'm like, no, I know I could have done better and I probably should have done better because I didn't do as much prep as I probably knew I could have and should have for that.
Yeah.
But this is a product I'm okay enough to give out to the public. So
have there ever been times where you've been doing, not necessarily from a business standpoint, but just a creative standpoint, making something for yourself, where you've done something, it's really good, and you're like, I want to share this with people. I want people to see this cool thing that I just did.
Yeah.
And then you put it out there, and you're like, I could have done this better. And then you like take it down, or like say, even just like, let's say you want to send it to like your best friend or whatever.
Right.
You do this thing. It's really cool. You send it. And you're like, hey, look at this final product that I've put together. This really cool thing. And you're like, here's version 2. Look at this. Like, this is better because there was this tiny little thing that I like. Have you done that before?
Absolutely. I will say I haven't, not that I can remember or recall, I haven't uploaded something that I loved and was super passionate about, put it up there and was like, I hate that. I'm going to take it back down. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
Because I think, and this is also maybe subjective, but I think once you release something to the world, it's no longer yours. And actually, there's a Bluey episode that references this back. And I mean, it hit me in the feels. Bluey is not for kids, it's for adults. It's made for kids, but it's really for adults. Prove me wrong. But there's an episode where Bandit's going through something or whatever. He doesn't really explain what it is that he's going through. But there is a quote in there that says, as an artist or a creative, if you release something into the world, it's no longer yours.
Yeah.
You give it to the world. And so I feel that way. But to answer your other question, yes, 100 times. I've done something where I'm like, man, I'm super proud of this. And so I only have like a very, very, very small group of people that I will submit and send my work to before I release it to the world to get their constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, no, it looks great. It's awesome. But there's that one time they're like, I mean, you could change this, or this looks a little bit different. Or I'll send it and be like, hold on.
So
that was off.
Obviously, if you get some kind of critique or like, hey, I would change this thing. Because I know you've done that with me. You've sent me things.
Yes.
And I've been like, there's this like tiny thing. Like, I would switch these 2 clips.
Right.
And I know that's been a thing. But times where you've done it and
Aggressive.
Not gotten any negative critiques back, like any suggestions on changes or whatever, and then just been like, here's version 2. I've done that.
I want to say no.
I've done that. And I've also taken stuff down when I've noticed something that I could do better. And I've actually, well, I won't say that.
No, go ahead and say that. That's what the podcast is for. Say it.
I was gonna say that there's a thing that I've done specifically with this podcast.
Oh.
That I have noticed a tiny
Yeah.
thing, and I've been like, I should go fix it, but I know that I need to not take it down.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I just leave it, and it is really small. It's not a huge deal, but I do think that I think my thought on it is like, as long as it doesn't have more than like one like, especially like on social media, if that's where your content
Yeah.
is going.
Nope. Yep. That's fair.
If it doesn't have more than one like,
Yeah.
completely within your right to take
Yeah,
it down,
right.
fix the thing,
feel that.
or fix the thing first, take it down and repost it. Now, are people going to notice that you've reposted the thing?
Absolutely.
Yes. Are they going to know why you reposted the thing?
Absolutely not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I think everyone is their own, not worst critic, but like
I'm my
they're
own
the
worst critic,
hardest
but-
on themselves.
Yeah.
And
Right.
if you were going to notice something and you know you can fix it, like, I feel like you're within your right to go and do that.
Let me ask this though. So with that, because right now you've been taking the brunt of posting. Well, I guess getting the reels ready to post. I still post them, but you take the brunt of
Yeah.
that. Have the last few episodes that we've done, have there been things to where you're like, we shouldn't post this for a specific reason?
Yes.
Okay.
Mostly, as far as reels are concerned, especially with the last episode, I feel like it's just repetitive content.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of like new information.
Subjects that we're talking on to make that relevant.
Like, yeah, it's in the same topic, and it's about a specific thing in that topic.
Right.
But it's like, if you want to get it, well, it doesn't have to be a reel. Just go and watch the whole episode,
Right.
because you get context before and after that 30-second reel, and that's how you can get that content.
Right.
But as far as like a specific reel, yeah, it would just be repetitive to post the same thing.
Well, so it's funny because I specifically, and this is where I've had to let perfectionism, because I think I have some of that in there. I have to let that go and just allow things to just, as imperfect as they are, just live and be out there. And then tell myself, hey, this has to be better for the next one. Like, you got to keep that
Yeah.
on your little list. Because I would personally say that there are several things that I'd be like, nah, I'm not going to post it. I don't want people to, I don't want to be painted in that light yet. But again, if we hold on to everything till it's perfect, then nothing will ever be shown.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's one of the reasons I've just like let the
Yeah.
tiny things go.
Yeah.
Because if I take it down, like, we're just gonna do that with
Right.
everything.
Right.
And it's, in the long run, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
You know, people are still getting content, and that's
Hopefully y'all are being gracious and just liking
and
it
that's
anyway.
that's yeah. That's the purpose of it, is to
Yeah.
just get the content out and not just hold it.
Right.
So specifically with posting or sending off some piece of content, I know that I did that as a musician. I would record a song or whatever,
Right.
and I would send it off to show someone. And actually, I think I did it in like Facebook Messenger or something. I sent someone that I hadn't talked to in a while, but I wanted them to like hear it. And I sent it to them, and I listened to it back, and I got some other critiques from other people. Not from that person. They never responded, but they definitely listened to it. And after I got the critiques back from the other people, I was just like, oh, they're right. Like, this isn't that great. I need to unsend my Facebook message to this person. And so, like, even with just individuals unsending or, taking back whatever it is that I sent.
I think, me personally though, and maybe this is just my personality, like, once I already send it or say it to you, I can't take it back. Now, obviously, in digital world, we can unsend a message, or we can be like, hey, I'm gonna take that down or whatever. But I think for me, once it's out, it's out.
Yeah.
That was how I originally felt or said or envisioned this at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so I think regrets are a strong word. Do I have regrets about those things? Now there's some things I'm like, I probably shouldn't have said it like that.
Yeah.
But I already said it. So I can't take it back. So, and I think this is for me, part of why I'm okay with that is that's just me owning that part of myself. Being like, you know what, I sent this person a text message and it says, you were lame today. Do better.
Yeah.
Like, I probably could have said that better, but that's how I felt in that moment.
Yeah.
And if I would have thought about it, I probably shouldn't have sent it. But I'm like, it's out now.
Yeah. Can't
take it back.
No take backs.
Yeah. So, and I think this is kind of going the whole technology route now. I do think it's a little strange, but it's been beneficial that you can edit messages now in your iMessages or whatever, or unsend a message. Like, I don't know how well that actually works, but
I feel like
enough people got in trouble that they were like, oh, we need to add this feature.
I see 100% how this is tied in to this topic. It almost feels like it could be its own conversation.
Technology?
Well, just the being able to unsend.
Oh, okay.
Or edit.
Yeah.
Pros and cons of being able to unsend.
I mean, we can make this a longer episode. It's okay. Go for it.
Something that I do in Photoshop or Illustrator all the time is, and other things, Command Z.
Undo.
Yeah, just keep going. Sometimes you can't even go back far enough.
No, you're like, so terrible.
I guess I'm living with that mistake.
I just let the project start all over again. So
how does that condition people in real world scenarios to not get it right the first time versus in digital world where you can undo, unsend, take down, edit, whatever, post?
So remember, were you, this may be after your time, before your time? Before your time. I don't know. I'm not that far apart.
I'm not dead yet, so it's not after my time.
Well. So, was there a time in school that you had to transition from writing in pencil to pen?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that happening, but I mean, it was like, whatever. It wasn't
okay.
For me, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Big deal is, I think, like, oh my gosh, life changing.
The thing that actually was annoying about that is when I had to write thank yous to people, and you have the stack of thank yous, and you're going to sit down and you're going to take care of all your thank you notes to people for birthdays or whatever, and
you spell one person's name wrong.
Yeah, or we were always taught, when you're addressing, or not addressing, when you're writing, you start to thank you, dear so and so.
Yeah.
And if it's like aunt and uncle, you put the man's name first.
Right.
That was just proper etiquette for that. But notice, even in just telling this, I said aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
We always said the aunt's name first when we were referring to them in person.
Sure.
The aunt's name first, and then
Aunt
the
Betty
uncle.
and Uncle Rob.
Yes.
Yeah. Totally makes sense.
But then you had to switch that when you're writing thank yous. And I cannot count.
Dear Uncle Bob and Aunt Betty.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that felt so foreign. Like, just that was the wrong order to say that in.
Sure.
And I cannot tell you the number of times I had to restart a thank you because of that.
Yeah.
Now, as an adult,
now you just text it and delete it and start over again.
Well, there's that. But also, like, it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. Is it proper etiquette? Probably. Is it a big deal? No. I don't think so. So, but at the time, it was like, I got to restart this thank you. And I went through and I would do it. You have multiple aunts and uncles that you're saying thank you to for birthdays and stuff. So it's like, I have to go through 3 different thank you notes before I even get it right. And then the worst thing was like getting to the very end and you like misspell a word or something.
Yep.
And you're just like, I just wrote this. You know what? Scratch it out. And just love Colin.
Yep.
And
then you send it off.
And then you send it off, and that's it.
So the reason I bring that up is because life-changing, like a big deal, not the right words, but it was definitely like an eye-opening moment because obviously with a pencil, you could erase that, start over, you'd be fine. We'll send it and call it a day, it'd be fine. But there was something about transitioning from a pencil to a pen for me that I was like, okay, listen, this is it.
Yeah.
Now, we'll exclude whiteout and like all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah, that was a thing.
I forgot that whiteout was a thing.
It was definitely a thing. Yeah. So and that was, God, it made everything messy.
Yep.
So that's why I was like, you had to really think about what it is that you were going to put on that with a pen. Because once it's there, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and again, excluding the whiteout, you could use those things, but it made it messy. But if you scratched it out, I mean, you saw it, you messed that up, but you had to go back there and redo something else.
In my opinion, whiteout, it's like sometimes you actually have to weigh, is using whiteout worth it?
Right.
Like more than just leaving the mistake, whatever it was. Like, is it that big of a deal?
And that's where I'm like, I think it's like, because of that.
You messed up a word.
Yeah.
It's going to look messy.
Right.
You use whiteout. It's going to look messy.
They're going to know you made a mistake.
You're going to know you made a mistake. So, which one is better?
And so,
but then there's like some like family members or whatever. You're like, I know they're not even going to read what I wrote.
They'll be like, oh, this is beautiful.
Like, oh, it says thank you, love Colin, and then just throw it away or whatever. So like,
I would be that family member.
You could kind of weigh like, is it worth trying to fix?
Right. And so I think bringing that full circle to like today, I think the technology and undoing and unsending, is that hindering us as a culture or whatever? A little bit, because I think it's allowing us to take backseats. Mm-hmm. When in reality, you can't have take backseats.
You can't do that in real life.
You can't. I mean, this is great. This is permanent. This is fine. This is gonna be great. I accept what I have just said, and I think that's the hard part. Is once people, I think I call it, shadow texting, or like they're bully texting. I mean, I'm not. If I wanted to say something really mean to you, I would never say it to your face.
Right.
I mean, personally, I would. We have that friendship.
Yeah.
But if I had something really strong worded I had to say to you, I'd just text it to you, or put it in an email, because I'm gonna hide behind my screen.
People are way more likely to say things to people, especially on social media. I think social media is like the it's just a terrible thing.
It's a catalyst for breeding online bullies.
Yes.
It's really what it is.
Well, and just there's no consequences.
No.
But in real life,
there
are consequences.
Listen, you say,
and there are some things that I've like done that I wish there was a Command-Z or Control+Z for.
Yeah.
But there's not. And social media, you don't have that. You can say things and there's like no consequence.
I got your Command-Z right here.
You could even take down the thing that you say.
Right.
You have I'm hiding behind social media to say this thing.
Right.
But even if you do decide you want to take it down, unless people like screenshot it and like share it all around.
Which celebrity life, you can post it and then take it down. It's going to be shared within 20 minutes.
I read a story the other day. There was a comedian that had said something about some person's child on social media. And that person, I don't remember all the details, that person went to this person's show, got up on stage, and he ended up just like punching the guy. He just like got up.
Was this Will Smith?
No.
Just kidding.
Different comedian. And it wasn't a slap; it was a full-on punch. And he got the guy back in the corner. I watched the video of it, but like he was just yelling at the guy and like, "You're not gonna say." He was like, "I'm defending my child." And like, okay, yes, maybe, but also,
let's not use violence.
You don't have to go and punch the guy.
I mean,
he shouldn't have said that. But if he said it to your face, said it to your face,
well, he wouldn't have said it to your face. That's the thing,
right? So that's why social media is causing issues in that area.
I cannot say that I wouldn't do the same. Not that I'm saying it's right, but if someone said something about my kid, I probably would have done the exact same thing.
I feel like in sitting here and not having experienced it, we say that, or we might say that, but I think when it comes down to it, we would probably have a little more self-control than we think we would have in that moment. Like, obviously, defending your kids.
I'd like to think that, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the question is
I think that when it comes down to it, we would have more self-control.
I would like to think so. I think you're right.
We're a little more self-aware than that guy was. We're sitting here talking about this story.
Right.
That guy is the story. So
right. But I'm just saying, no one's talked about my kids like that.
Yeah.
So I haven't had the opportunity to do that. Not that I want one.
Right.
That's not giving you permission to call out me or my kids, because I will come after you. Like that's how I feel about that. And you're probably right.
Yeah.
That I'd be like, I want to, but I'm not going to make the effort to drive to someone's house and
Yeah.
throw
Well,
hands.
here's another thing. That comedian, obviously he's a comedian. He's in the public's eye.
Right.
People know where his shows are going to be. It's a lot easier to go and find a person.
That is
Now,
also
if it's just
true.
a random person that we don't, they're not a celebrity or any kind of whatever, you can't really go and just like find someone. I mean, you could technically, I guess, but
That's
like
also trespassing.
it would be a
against their
lot more.
house.
It would be a lot more effort than just going to
Yeah.
a comedian's website. Oh, he's got a show in my city in a week. I'm going to go to his show and call him out for his whatever it was that he said about my kids
You're not
on
wrong.
social media.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you're punching the guy. So,
Moral of the story is don't use violence to solve your problems.
moral of the story, well, that's one. Definitely that. But also, don't go after people's kids.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know if that's the moral of the story, but that's just a given. Don't
If
go
you
after
have
people's kids.
if you have an issue with someone or whatever, that's fine. But here's the other thing: it's making from a comedian standpoint, like making jokes about like there is, I think, somewhat of a line, and when it comes to like people's kids, like don't make jokes about people's kids that
just leave kids out of it. Like I feel like kids are off limits.
don't even touch that. Just do your bit.
Yeah.
Leave kids out of it, and you won't get punched
Be
in the
crass
face.
if you. I mean, yep, I like that. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Let me ask this before we go. So, as a student who grew up in constructive criticism from your teachers and potentially your bosses, do you feel like the criticism that you got from your teachers, your bosses, have that helped you or hindered you as you've gone through work life and work experiences?
I think it's helped me. I think it's helped me grow creatively. Now, I will say that there's also a level of like, how high do you hold these people in your life? Like, when I was in college, my professors were like, these are the final critiques of anything that I do, and I want them to approve of the stuff that I do, so I'm going to follow their critiques because I hold them so high. Same thing with parents. But I think from that aspect, yes, it has helped me grow as a creative. Because there's things that if I hadn't gotten those critiques, I mean, I would have just been doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
I wouldn't have known any better. And I think that's part of the reason, that's part of what, at least in a creative world, college is learning how to be critiqued, learning how to critique, and learning how to take criticism or critiques from people.
Right.
And distinguish between constructive criticism and just criticism.
Right.
And it was beneficial.
I love that. So I think to kind of tie this up in a bow, the premise of it is when you get or give criticism. I'll put it this way: if you're going to receive criticism, it needs to be from someone that you trust, and someone who has the best interest for you, versus just submitting it to people. So be careful who you're submitting your work to or your projects to, or just things that you need to get criticism on. And then 2, if you're going to give criticism, let it be something that is going to help people become better or show them how to be better. Kind of like what you said. If you can't explain why or how, either you like it or you don't, then you probably shouldn't give it, because then that's just becoming a personal opinion.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. All right, that's it for us on this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.